Hello and welcome. I'm Bill Wake. We're working on a project in Swift that's a tune similarity tool to help us analyze tunes and decide which ones are more similar to others. And we've done a fair bit of work on getting the notes in we have a file format called ABC. We got the notes coming in. We just started doing the parts, so repeats and things like that. Well, sections, maybe a better way to say it. So there's an A part and a B part. You can have A, B, B, and stuff like that. And we kind of got to a decent point on that and just broke off to do some refactoring on the parser itself. It doesn't really, well, I should say it didn't really break out individual kind of areas as in its design. And so we've been pulling apart pieces and making separate classes out of them to make the whole thing a little easier to understand. All right, I think Xcode kind of updated on me in the background, so let's, oops, sorry. Anyway, I think Xcode may have upgraded itself on me, but we'll see how things go. So let's just start with running the tests. And I can't even remember if we left off with a passing test or failing test. Sometimes we do it the other way. Another thing, I think we didn't really break out the tests, so we should do that as well. Pull out the parsers, pull out the tests. And we haven't really done a full end-to-end kind of test on things. I'm not really sure if everything's even hooked up. Okay, let's get the parser over here. Oh, and another thing I thought of, this name notes, I think this would be better off called score. It's more than just the notes. It's got dynamics and parts and key signatures and time signatures and all kinds of stuff that can go in there. So let's rename that while I'm thinking about it. Okay, that's score. I renamed the file for me too as well. Nice. Okay, and we'll see. Well, this maybe, let's call this elements. There are going to be other places that reference notes, and maybe we'll change that to score as we run into them. All right, a couple of renames. All right. And so this is Halloween. Okay, good. Excuse me. All right, let's see what our parser looks like now. So I think for the most part now, we just have the note parsing that's in here. Okay, so we got a note parser, note line parser. Okay, the notes themselves I think are pulled out, but the note line parser is not. There's that. And I think that's the fine tunes. This is more of a parser, overall parser. Let's pull this out. Okay, so make note line parser. Let's we'll just create a class up here. A note line parser, and I don't think we have any requirements on it yet. Its main thing is the parser. Okay. And we'd like make note line parser. right, let's copy this up there. Here. All right, and I think what we want to do is an init. Oh, we got digit. Anything else? Note parser. Okay. We'll just copy that as well. It's okay, and then note parser. Let's pass that in. Note parser cbind of note. That doesn't seem like it's going to sustain, but okay. Note line parser. Okay. Everything else is okay. Good. And then, well, let's see how we did one of these other ones. Here's note parser. We have build note. Okay, so we make note parser returns a bind. I thought we did this in the init. That's a helper function. Let's try another one, key parser. Yeah, this is the style I think I want to do. So we can make it and then provide a parse function. Let's see where this thing gets used. So we make note line parser. Whoops. Okay, so here's declared, here's make, here's the use. Okay. Right, so I think we should give this thing a parse method. Much like this. And its usage is result. Let's see, the type of result is parse result, character score. Okay. So this, oops, this one should be get down to the parse. Oh, get up here. Parse returns parse state. Does that sound right? No. Okay. Well, we got this. Let's go ahead and try and use it. I guess I want to make the init. And then I'll do a defer. And then parser equals make note line parser of note parser. So we'll need that argument here too. Note parser is cbind note. Okay, so when you create this parser, you're going to give it the note parser, and it'll have this thing built and ready to roll. And then you can just call parser.parse on it. Well, parse is defined down here. Parser. Right. So you have to take a slice and do this. Let's take that as the default declaration. Character. And the target is score, I think, right? Yeah. Character score. Okay. And we're going to call parser.parse of input. Okay. Well, this should build because we haven't done anything with it. Okay, we've extracted the pieces we expect to use. Now I want to capture them in this. So note line parser is, let's make it a note line parser. Okay, and now in here, this is note line parser. I guess we don't need that. Of note parser. Okay. And all right, there's going to be some more errors somewhere. Here we go. Okay, so parse it. Oh, well, let's see what parse it does. Oh no, what's the problem? Parser.noteline parser. Cannot convert value of noteline parser to expected type bind character T, because noteline parser is not a parser, which is what parse it wants. Let's see. Well, I guess I could say it's a parser and then it would be one, right? Parser of type parser. And I probably have to give it some qualifications. Input target. I guess it'll infer that. I think. No? Oh, public. Yes, that's good. Okay. Cannot convert to bind character T. Okay, maybe I'm doing it the hard way. Let me do it the way we've done it in the others, and that's making the parser available. And we don't need this. And we don't need the declaration up here anymore. All right, then down here, note line parser dot parse. Well, that's kind of clunky. well, let's get it right and then get it converted over so we get the complaints to shut up, and then we'll see what we got. And then down here, parser.noteline parser.parser. Okay, that should be okay. Wow, so much for that. Defer self-used. Parser, bang. Okay. Now, the next step is we want to extract this class out or move it to a separate file. And its domain. Oh no, it's parser. We'll need p combo. And then this should be okay. Okay. Test this. And now we can clean up. I think we should find that nobody's using this anymore. Right? Okay. I don't know if anybody's using this anymore. I think I want usage. Nope, not here. Okay. Well, I don't think anybody's using this anymore either. Okay, so what we're getting down to here is this AbcParser. It's got the pieces to parse other stuff, but the real thing it's doing, and I think that's becoming better, it's doing the overall parsing. Let's see this thing. So the structure of an ABC file is you first look for content, then you find an X line, which gives you the index number, a bunch of titles, you gather those, you get a tune header where you gather stuff until you get a key definition, and then a tune body where the notes are. And the bulk of this now is managing that. So down in here, we run through each line, and then we're switching on the state. So it's just kind of a state-driven parser, line-based kind of thing. I don't know. In principle, I could make a grammar that defines the whole file, but I don't know. It seemed more straightforward to handle each line as its own parser. Okay, so that really is the bulk of that. I think there's still a little dead code in here normalize is used. Fine tunes is probably the overall entry point. Okay, yeah, we define it here. We're using it here. Okay. This, is anybody using this version? They are. Okay, good enough. I don't think they have to. We have two versions of this defined, so I think this one's really shadowing the more public one. We've left it as a free function. Okay, so I think I can do this, and that should work. Okay, delete it. Okay, that's pulled out. I don't think I'm going to pull out any of the rest of this, at least now. This is done by a parser. That's got a parser. Header title parser. Key parser could be its own thing. Well, there's the parse it. Yeah, we'll keep that for now. But notice that is duplicated. Maybe the key parser could do more. What's that look like? Okay. It's not a separate class like the others. Okay. I'll keep that on hold. But I think other than that one, tune header, tune body. Okay, so we skip white space, look for P colon. I don't know, that seems a little bit clunky. Okay, so it sets the current part. And then this tunes, okay, that's fine. Okay. All right, I don't think we've checked it made any changes. Or did I? I can't remember. No. Okay. Let's see what our to-do says. Pull out parsers to separate files. I think we've done at least a substantial amount of that. There's still a little more you could probably do. Pull out corresponding tests. Yeah, that I would like to do. I don't know. We spent probably an hour or so the other day, and I think we're going to spend an hour today. But these really do apply more to a single parser. These are all about key parser. So let's see key parser tests, which probably doesn't exist. Okay, yeah, there's not a lot of tests. Okay, so when I have separate parsers, I pretty much want to have a corresponding test class if there's a bunch of stuff being used by it. Okay, so this is all sharp keys, flat keys, check key signature, check sharp key, check flat key. Okay. Do they use? No, I think that's kind of standalone. Okay, let's make sure our tests all run. Okay, good. Okay, this is entity replacement, and that corresponds to substring normalize. Yeah. Okay, so let's do that down here. AbcParser tests. Check successful is a bigger deal. It's not part of this. Okay, 8%. Okay, now I'm less sure here. Reference number parser. And they're all calling check successful parse, right? That's... Okay, this one takes just the header parser. This is just the title parser. I mean, I think I can make this a... What can we do? We're checking successful parser input. I need to move this somewhere that all my tests can see it. And maybe I can just do that this way. I don't know. I'm a little unsure how much people make these kind of top level free functions in Swift. I may be doing more than is advisable. But I'm finding them helpful. So this is parser plus, let's say, helper. Okay. Let's pull this up first, and then we'll pull it over. Okay, I think if I put it there, take it out of here, make sure everybody builds. I guess that was quick. Okay, so now I have that out. I can, do I need this? I don't think so. I do need this. I can put that in here. And everybody here should still be using it. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Let's clean up. What? Like I'm supposed to know what this is? Okay, let's put this back. Oh, I have it here too. If that's its way of telling me I've got a duplicate symbol, I gotta say it's not such a great way to do it. Yeah, now everybody realizes they don't know this thing. Okay, so import XCTest, parser plus helper should be here. I think it's, I'm hoping this clean will wake it up and let it find it. Not apparently. Really? Oh, file private. Static string sut. File not found. Undefined symbol. XCT assert equal. Did I not import? That imports XC test. Oh, P combo would be a good one. Oh, maybe I do need that testable import. Oh, it's part of module. Static string fail. It's like it's not finding XC test. Let's make sure this is in the right place here. I think it's not. These are all tests iOS. I think they should really be shared tests, but not this. I think that should be the case for all these. I haven't done a lot of these joint projects with macOS and iOS. All right, let's see if that's any better. No. Nil requires a contextual type. So are these errors or not? Apparently not. Okay, so split apart to separate files. Okay, and then reference number parser is pretty simple. Title parser, parts parser. Oh, this is titles. Okay, I think this one should come out. That's reference number parser. Do we have a separate reference number parser file? Header reference number. Okay. That name's getting a little awkward. Oh, that's a little funny. Okay. Let's rename this AbcParser. I don't like reusing that name right there. It's not replacing the name above it, so it's can't understand why I can reference it. I mean, I guess I do understand, but it just seems poor luck. Okay, so that's those. Make sure that's all okay. All right, and then, okay, reference number parser we just got rid of. Title parsers, same kind of thing. And up here, that is header title parser, okay. And the reason, I don't know, those cannot, there are header things that can't go in the body, but some of them, some cannot. Header title parser tests. Okay, let's do the same thing here. Okay, this is parts. That's all good. Errors get caught. Okay, let's do the same thing. No, we don't have a parts parser yet, but let's pull this out anyway. Oh, we need that AbcParser. Oh boy. That is an easy mistake to make. I don't know how I default it to the right thing. Okay, so that was parts. Now this stuff, this is more across the file. So I think this is okay. This is looking for the titles, and it's doing that top level state machine that tells us how to build a whole list of tunes. Yeah, this stuff, the note stuff, maybe. All right, let's commit this much. Pull out more tests to separate files. See, it's one thing to know you're finding a line that has notes in it, but then the details of this, how you actually parse them, and you put grace notes and you put bar lines and all that stuff, that's a little different. End of note line. Okay, body information field match. That's sort of the new thing. Okay, so notes line. And it's all calling check tune parsing. Okay, let's grab this much. New file. And I'm going to say this is note tests. Oh, we need the ABC parser. Okay, I'm going to delete this. See if anybody complains. Give ourselves one of these. Okay. Oh. Oh, and it looks none. Note parser tests. Well, maybe that's more like note tests. Oh, domain. Okay. This one is note parser tests. Okay. Okay, so we still need parse tune with 2 arguments. I'm going to let that duplicate between them. And this guy calls parse tune. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Check tune parsing. I guess we'll keep all 3 of these. And this is, I don't know, I'm a little willing to have some duplication across the tests like this, but I don't think it's perfect. Note parser tests redeclared. Okay, who else is doing that? Oh, I already had those. Okay. Does note parser tests have check tune? No, that's more simple. Okay. This can go in here then. Okay, let's see if we got this straightened out. Good. Okay, and then these. Well, the parts is a little bit funny. I think that probably needs to be a separate thing. So this is parts parser tests. We already have it. Let's see. Parse tune. Notes of tune reflected tests. Okay, I think we're going to need that parse tune again. Tune body information field. That's something else. So let's take these two out, put them in parts parser test. Okay, we don't have parse tune yet. Okay. Did I get this one? Okay, I think I've got most of it. Let's see, who calls this? Tune incorporates parts just after title. Well, that seems to be more about parts than. Okay, let's try that again. That's fine. Body information fields. Okay, so that's legit. That calls this one. Okay. Who's calling this? Check tune parsing. Okay, that sounds like it. All right. Okay, everything should run. All right, and then the last thing I think we want to do for this is we haven't done a real end-to-end test on it, so end-to-end with test with parts. Actually, we may have. I guess what we're looking for is a tune. Yeah, no, I think we are okay. We have A part, ABC, B part, BG. They count the proper things. I think that's legit. Okay. So I think we are done with this one. And that was all stuff relative to today. Let's do that. Okay. And this is basically refactoring. Okay. Now, I think ABC parser getting too large. I think we've addressed that. That was an observation. Okay. So... So we're at kind of a different stage in the project. So right now we generate these parsing code graphs. Let's demonstrate. Find our data file. Okay, select all this, copy, and we'll run the app. Okay, so we generate a report. That's not us. Okay. But anyway, you can see the style of it. So the parsing code is this RDR stuff. It tells you whether you're repeating up or down. Star is always the start. And then we use that to build this graph that gives you a sense of whether the tune is generally going up or down or bouncing around. Okay, so this no scaling is the old deck the halls. So, well, it's an older version, so I can't quite sing it into the place here, but this is probably the fa la 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 la. You know, it just goes down, 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 and the rest of it bounces around. But we get this parsing code and the corresponding graph. That was the bulk of our first pass at this. Then we added the notion of parts, and you can say there's an A part and a B part, and you play A twice and B twice, and that will be reflected in there. Now, the thing that is not so clear, I think I have pictures here somewhere. Yeah, so think about Twinkle Twinkle. Let's drop that one. So Twinkle Twinkle, bum 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 bum. That's like the first phrase. There's a Mozart concerto, I think, where he dresses up Twinkle Twinkle a bunch of different ways, and one of them is like da 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 da. You know, lots of extra notes in there. Now, from a tune similarity perspective, the bones of the tune are the same. If you just looked at the quarter notes, say, they might, you know, the first note of the pair here would correspond to one of these quarter notes. And so it might actually be the same basic tune, but because you've got so many more notes, you know, this one, the graph might be bouncing all over the place. And this one's very, you know, repeat this, go jump up, repeat that, jump down, repeat. You know, you can't really see that in this structure. So this notion of quantizing is to say, I want you to take a tune and I would like to, within each measure, I would like to specify the sort of granularity of it. Like at the quarter note level, what note is playing at each moment? Okay, well, it's, you know, C, C, G, G, A, G. Okay, and if you look at the Mozart one on the bottom, it originally was, you know, C, D, C, D, G, A, G, F, sharp G, you know, something crazy. Lots of notes, but if we quantize it, it might also be C, C, G, G, D, D, or A, B, A, G, the same pattern. So I want to tell it quantize at quarter note level, and I should get two measures of quarter notes. This one is implicitly held, but if I just kind of look at what note is playing at any given moment of time, quarter note by quarter note, I should see that. And I could also do half notes or eighth notes. I mean, you could arbitrarily do anything. I think for most tunes, quarter notes, maybe eighth notes, but quarter notes, maybe half notes might reveal the most about it. And if you're trying to simplify a tune for learning purposes, this is one of those things you can do. You can just not play when you got too many notes. You just leave out some, and play the more higher level of it. Excuse me. I'm definitely gonna get a drink in a moment here. Okay, so I think this quantizing is sort of this transformation we want to apply to the music. Now, the model we have right now, let's find score. Let's make sure this error is really gone. Okay. If we find score, which was notes before, but it really is the sequence of things that happen. Okay. I guess we need to look at tune as the starting point. Okay, so the way we are now, a tune has some metadata, reference number, titles, key, and it also has all the notes in the score. But the core of it is really this. It says you have a part specification that tells what parts of the tune to play, like A, B, B, and then you have a dictionary basically that says, given a character, a part name, what's the score for it? What's the measures and all the stuff inside it? Okay. And so AABB, we can say, okay, first go through, find the A part, pull out its score. Those are its notes. Now find the next one, A again. Okay. Same notes. Now the B, pull in the parts for B, gives me some notes, and then do that again, and I get the whole song. And that's in effect what this is doing. It's mapping the parts description into the parts, and then appending them all together into one big score of notes. Okay. And then score, wherever it is, there we go. Score says a score is really just basically it's a sequence, or it's an array of musical elements, a sequence of them. And if all you have is notes, okay, that's all we have right now. Real music has more stuff in it. Let's go down to section 11, 12, 13. Okay. Oh, this doesn't have musical note examples. Okay. It's got input examples, but not musical examples. I think there are some. Oh, yeah, they're pretty primitive there, aren't they? Okay. Maybe down in here. Well, I don't see any real good. There we go. Okay, so this one, it's a complicated score. It's got multiple voices playing at the same time, but the voice one is tenor one, and you can see it's got a B, a C, a D, a G. So that's B, C, D, G. Then a bar line. Well, we're not even representing the bar lines right now. And if you go further, there's a double bar line, and we could have repeated bar lines and all kinds of other stuff. We only capture the notes right now. We don't capture the measures. And so there's the notion of a time signature. Well, meter is common meter, which is 4/4. Okay, so 4 notes to the measure, a quarter note gets the beat. 4 beats to the measure, a quarter note gets the beat. So these are each quarter notes, a black ball with a stick. Okay, and so 4 of those per measure, per voice. All right, so we have some representation work to do to capture that hierarchy. And let's see, somewhere in here, yeah, down here, parts can have, I think sections is maybe the right name, but it may not be. Like if you have a repeat mark and then a bunch of measures, another repeat mark, I'm calling that a section because you could have 2 of those, I guess. But in there you could have instructions like this is new key signature. You could have pickup notes, which are little extra notes at the start of a song. And then you can have the common parts, which is a bunch of measures, which also may contain instructions, notes, or ties. And then you can have endings that also contain measures, notes, or ties. Okay, so we need more stuff. Now, I don't know if sections is meaningful. This is me trying to interpret this is an interaction between the file format and the real notion of music notation. I don't know. There's some ambiguity in my mind. If I have, let's see, I'll just type it in. How about here? Okay, if I have an A part and it's like note, 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 well, let's put a repeat sign at the front. Here's a repeat structure. A, B, C, D are the 4 notes, and then they repeat, and then I do another repeat structure, or another, let's just do another set of notes, E, F, G, A, B, E, F, G, A, and then the end, okay, an end marker. Is all of this is the A part, so it's really A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, okay, because there's no repeat on the second one. That I don't know a name for. Each of these well, maybe people call them structures. I'm not sure, but there's probably a name for it. I don't know it. I've been doing music all my life as an amateur, and I don't think it's come up. I had 4 or 5 music theory classes in college, but I don't remember if there's a word for that. I should probably dig out my theory books again and just double check. But in any case, there's something going on here that's sort of a different unit of some sort than what's going on over here. And to some extent, the AABC stuff, the problem I have is, okay, let's keep going. B colon, let's just put ABCD again. Well, DCBA, just so we can, how about BBBB? All right. So this one has the B part. Now, if somebody says the structure is AABB, I don't know if I can, yeah, okay. AABB, then I should probably be playing something like ABCD. I don't know. Do I play ABCD twice? EFGA, that's 1A, and now my second A is ABCD, EFGA, and then the B is BBBB, and then BBBB. Okay, that might be a reasonable interpretation, but if I didn't have this, it would definitely be ABCD, ABCD, and that would be it. So I don't know that. The fact that there's a repeat, I don't take the repeat unless I repeat the A part there. So I don't know if that's an ambiguity in like the notation system we have, the ABC input format, or if you can do that, but different people might interpret it differently. It's probably not, I mean, I don't know. It's not something I learned early on, I guess, but scores are kind of like ideas, that in many versions of music, you don't necessarily play every bit of the score, every repeat, every possibility that it lays out for you, that it's a legitimate performance to decide, like, I'm only going to play A, B instead of AABB. It's you're making a musical interpretation by doing that. Now, some composers would prefer that you just follow every bit of direction and not do that, the performance thing, like, I guess, you could tape it and you'd have that one performance you want. But in any case, there's more going on that we haven't got to, that if I want to do this quantizing thing, I got to introduce measures. And if I introduce measures, I probably need to start worrying about pickup notes and maybe endings. We certainly could. I mean, we can start with just measures, just the common measures, no variants, no pickup notes, no repeat signs or any of that stuff, just simple measures, and go from there. And I think that's what we'll do. I don't know if I need to worry about this or not. I guess if there were only one construct, like repeated section, then I would repeat it only if the specification of ABB said to repeat it. If it's got an internal repeat on its own, I think maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should do what I wrote out up here. I don't know. We'll decide something. Worst case, we can make it an optional kind of interpretation thing. All right, we are due for a break. So let's take about a 3-minute break. We'll come back and we'll start doing things that force measures to be an issue. And that means we're going to have to start representing them and then start interpreting them. And we'll go from there. So see you in about 3 minutes. Hey, welcome back. All right. So I think the first thing we're going to have to do is make a decision on the representation side of things. Our measures are the measure lines, are they elements that are just there, or are they imposing a structure over top of the music? I'm gonna say they're gonna be. I'm going to say let's start with them as a sequence of elements. And if you... So the interpretation of them is done by whoever gets the elements back, and they're going to get this stream of elements like bar line, note, 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 bar line, note, 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 special kind of bar line, whatever. I think that's the right start. I think in the long run, we might prefer that the measures actually impose a structure on things, that measures contain notes. I think the stream is a simpler starting point. We can get the stuff captured and matched and saved, then decide if we need to, that like, measures, we're going to have to make them do things. I don't know the answer yet. It may turn out that a stream of them is just fine. Alrighty. So where are we going to begin? I guess... I almost want to start this as a refactoring kind of thing. It isn't exactly, but I want to make it so that the Parsons code stuff we have now basically ignores bar lines. And I put a little bit of, musical element right now is only notes, a one item type. There's the case. It's notes. Okay. But I think bar lines, we could make a bar line concept, and then I think if we make a bar line concept as an element, then we can have a sequence of bar lines or notes. And if we have that, I think we have probably enough information for now. All right, so we had to parse them. Let's find note parser. It's an awfully complicated specification for notes, flats and sharps, and then I don't know if we can see the whole thing. A note is accidentals followed by upper or lower letter, followed by an octave modifier, followed by duration. Okay, so that's one note. somebody else, maybe it's our score. We have a note line parser. Yeah, let's try this thing. Okay. Yeah, here's bar lines and rests. Annotations, decorations. There's just stuff and stuff and stuff. Okay, but the thing you can see here is rest or notes bar line. Let's see where bar line is. Bar lines, followed by optional spaces. Okay, so notes is all notes, which is annotations, decorations, parentheses, notes, and then optional, less than, greater than, an optional closing paren. So let's see where notes get their stuff. I'm a little puzzled here. Grace note parser. It feels like we did that on the other one. Rest or note and grace note. Note parser. Let's find note parser. I thought there was a alphabetize these. Sort by name. Okay. Note line parser, note parser. Okay. Let's get them both here. All right. Note parser, flats, accidentals. Oh no, Grace note parsers are not part of them. Okay. I don't know if that's right or not. But in any case, okay. So when you call note parser, and you're going to create, you're going to get back a note. Yeah. Okay, so note parser is producing a list of notes. And then down here somewhere, yeah, we get these values. We'll flat map them, okay, and make a score out of them. Okay. So note, let's see, note parser. Let's see what it does. It gives us a build note. Okay, so it gives us a note. Now, it may be that we'd be better off with an element, but let's see where we are. Okay, so this thing, score, let's go to the declaration there. Score takes notes and then maps them to the dot note. I think that's a mistake. I think, well, I shouldn't say mistake exactly. I think our next phase tells us really score should be the elements, not just notes. And so let's push this back out to the caller. So let's make a different version. Elements, and this is musical element. All right, and I think this name should be elements. Okay, and then self dot, interesting, elements equals elements. Okay, so we just pass them in, and they are okay. we can extend it. Okay, I don't know how good that is, but nobody's calling this right now, so. Oh. Okay. Let's just make one that starts out empty. Okay. Public init. Let's just say it's doing nothing. Okay, I think that should be okay then. Well, somebody hasn't quite caught up yet. Score. Okay, so I'm simplifying score. By removing this case. So anybody who calls this one, I'm going to make them do notes.map on their stuff first. Actually, I just need to make sure they provide elements. Okay, so let's do a test. Expected notes. Well, expected notes. Okay. Well, let's just map this to dot note of this. Okay, let's see if it'll pick that up. It probably wants us to put the word musical element in there. Okay, so now expected note should be type array musical element, and score takes that, and it's fine. Okay, what else we got? Score of expected notes. Again, let's do this. Musical element dot note of this. And there may be a better way to do this now that we're seeing a duplication. That should be fine. Okay. All right, now these should be using the new method, and they're okay. All right. Find this one. Well, this is the one that's going to be the hardest. Let's get past that for now. Let's put in a helper method. Okay, so I should be able to say make note on each of these. That was a note constructor with the fourth argument. Note. I guess key. And we can probably be nice like they were. And then score. Okay, let's do this. Okay, now somewhere in here, I don't remember what it looks like, but let's look for this. Text. Pretty sure we had a test that used an example with this kind of bar line. Well, that one does. Okay, that does not. All right. Let's see. Was it score? No, note parser, note line parser. Trying to find our bar lines. Okay, so they are here. Okay, so note parser says match bar lines and ignore its result and then match a string of all the notes. And then match another bar line or a bar line. Oh, okay. You can start with bar lines. You don't have to. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is make bar lines. So this is notes followed by spaces or bar lines. Okay. Now bar line is a character. So, okay, so something's funny to me. Value and score value dot flat map. Like what's barline producing for us? Well, up here it's getting thrown away, and that cannot be right for us. Okay. So I think our notes parser is saying you might start with a bar line, and you can follow it by spaces, and then you're going to see some notes, and all notes parser is going to produce, well, somehow it's producing notes, right? So we got to find who's doing that. Rest or note parser. Rest or note parser. A rest comes up empty. A note parser comes up with that. Okay, I think that may be our first handle, like rests we're not doing. But rest or note parser comes back with an array of notes. Okay, I want to make it come back with an array of musical elements. And I think I can do that right here. Note parser finds one note. So let's do musical element dot note of $0. See if the type of this is note. $0 bind character note dot target. Note target is the second one, which is note. Okay, so that should be legit. Then down here, somebody's going to get upset. Function requires types be equal. Okay, what's Grace note parser doing? It's matching notes. Well, no. Okay. Grace note parser. Note parser. Well, Grace note parser matches paren, the braces, and it keeps the notes inside, and it takes whatever note it gets from there. So in the old way, note parser. Note parser produces a note, right? Yeah. So Grace note parser produces an array of notes and a note, which is an array of notes. So somehow this thing should be producing an array of musical elements. I'm going to say we're ignoring grace notes for now. And so we're going to produce an array of some sort. Well, it's just going to be musical element dot note of $0 last. Okay, because I know I've got at least one. Well, I know I have at least two, actually. This structure is going to produce a list plus a single item. We'll put it in the list. So the list will consist of the grace notes and the notes. Let me add that to the to-dos, though. Okay, so this is really more of an explication of that. Make a musical element for grace notes. Parse them. Okay, we're not doing that at the moment. Okay, so I think that should says turn the grace note plus its real note into a single musical element that's a note consisting of just the last one. Okay, so that takes away the error here because these two are equivalent now. They both give us musical elements. All notes parser. Annotation. Okay, now this, let's see what's going on here. So, well, let's make sure everything's running and get that right. Failure. The grace note guy. Okay, so he's saying, let's say allowed but ignored. AGFG should go away. All right, which is kind of one of these performance simplifications. You're not putting in the grace notes, which sort of are 0 time duration notes officially, but obviously they take some moment to perform. Grace notes are allowed but ignored. Okay, I think that should be the true behavior at this point. Okay, I'll make sure everybody's happy still. Okay, make grace notes allowed but ignored. Okay, now note line parser. Okay, so now the bar lines. Well, let's add the capability first. We have musical elements part of score, I believe. Yep, there it is. Okay, so if another, let's say case bar line, I'm going to say string for now. I don't know the write type, but they can come in kind of weird combinations, so I'm not going to be very restrictive at the moment. Okay. This should change. It should look more like this. Well, no, I guess we could say if let dot note of ignore equals self, then return true. Otherwise false. So only true if it's that. Okay. And then this one needs to be note is a value. Well, this is the case of a bar line. And we need a note, and maybe there's a default note. Let's see what we can do. No, there's not really a default. There's unknown pitch. I don't have a way to create a note from a pitch. That's kind of too bad. Okay, we'll just kind of default to C natural 0 and let it go, I think. Okay, so I guess maybe we'll have to do a little work with note. This is musical element. Well, this really doesn't belong here, does it? It belongs in score. Yeah, let's make some score tests. This is where I think assert equals actually kind of better. Okay, so C natural 4 versus bool. Oh, dot is note. Okay, and this should be a test. Okay. Oh, once again. Okay, yeah, now score is a problem. All right. If let. Case let, okay. This one, let's return note. C, 0, natural 0. Okay, and I think we're just being arbitrary here. Description, okay. I think that'll be okay. Now, I do expect a problem like there may be people who should be looking to see if they got notes and they're not checking it, but we'll see. All right, so add bar line to musical element. Okay, and I guess as note, I kind of let it run through, but let's backfill that test for that. Okay, so we should get a C natural 4 if you do musical element dot note of C natural 4 dot as note. C natural 0 if you do musical element barline dot as note. Okay, and these should pass. A little more readable if I do this. Okay, so if you pass in a note, you get that note back. If you pass in some other thing, we don't care what, we're just going to arbitrarily give you a C back, a very low C. And if you are listening to it, you'll notice. All of a sudden the bass note comes in. All right, this should be everybody. Element dot as note. Okay, now score. Let's go back to our search. What was our previous search? Do I get those? Score.init. Okay. I think we did the test. We did not do score. No, tune. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're still. Notes, parse description map self. Right, does that give us notes or does it give us elements? Okay, parts gives us a score. Okay, so that's gonna have stuff with. Oh, wait a minute. A tune consists of a bunch of scores. Okay, that seems okay-ish. Scores can add to scores, and that's where that one comes. Okay, but I think our note parser, where did that go to? Note line parser. Okay, right. So grace notes now handle correctly. They return notes. This thing returns an array of notes. Or we get bar lines. I guess I'm not getting how a bar line matches in with this thing. All notes parser. Well, he's got rest or note parser. So rest or note parser must, okay, produces an array of musical elements. All notes parser certainly includes this piece. It's the only one that has anything returned to it. So annotation's optional, but then rest or notes, this the greater than, so it's saying ignore me, take the one to my right. Well, that one says ignore me, take the one to my right, except this one is the one that gets taken, and these say ignore me, take the one to my left. So this is the only one that comes through. rest or note parser, and it returns array of elements. Okay, but now, match this bind. Notes parser dot parse. I guess I'm trying to see what the whole thing produces. It produces a score. All right, let's see if we can interpret this. It's going to be a mess. Too much of a mess. Oh, sometimes it'll have an AKA. I don't see one. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, so bar lines get ignored. The first bar line gets ignored. Then we take the all notes parser. What I don't get is how this, is it producing something? It's just matching characters. So I don't, this should be notes and followed by spaces, which are ignored, or it's a bar line. And so this whole thing, let's see, that's that. Why does that produce? I don't understand why those are compatible types, I guess. Normally, but across an OR bar like this, the type of this has to match the type of this, right? The type of this is pretty simple. It's a character. The type of this, it's pretty complicated. But somewhere in here, it's telling us it's an array of musical elements. And why that works. So let's map this in and see what happens. Musical element dot bar line of $0. Okay, like somebody should be complaining at this point. Yeah, cannot convert value of type character to expected argument string. Okay, well that's easily fixed. Operator function requires, or bar requires character target character and pipe of musical element. Where is that? All notes parser cannot be giving us a character. Pipe of satisfy character to musical element. Character and musical element should be equivalent. But I don't know, is it somehow saying this is a character? Let's see what the type of this is. Well, at the end, I think it's array of musical elements. This one should be array of musical elements. So the type of this should be array of musical elements. But it's mentioning characters there. What's annotations? It's an array of basically an array of characters. Because this matches a quote mark. It's basically things in quote marks. There's not quote marks and then match the final quote mark. That's your annotation separated by optional spaces. Excuse me. Or followed by optional spaces. That would seem to be a string. Oh, we ignore it. We ignore it. Okay, yeah. So this thing, I just don't know. It looks like it's rest or note parser. Should return a musical element, an array of musical elements. And bar line is a single musical element. Let's make this an array to make it compatible. Oh. Okay, character and musical element. Array of musical element be equivalent. I don't get it. See what this thing thinks it is. Oh, mess. Okay, let's try piping this. The same thing goes over here. That should produce a score. I don't know, there's more going on here. I just want to do this bind trick. Let's try it. I'm playing at this point, but I'm going to say let all notes parser equal temp. Okay, that should be, well, that should be okay-ish, but now I want to say bind temp dot parse. And see what his type is. Why is that so complicated? The thing I think bind is, one of the things bind can do for you is simplify names substantially. And so there's an init that takes a parse function. I don't know why that's there. Oh, there's a bind. Okay. So you can either create it with the parse function or bind it later. But if you create a bind, well, let's specify these types. And I think it should be character input type and musical element output type. Okay. Now I think that should be true. Cannot convert all that stuff. Oh, funny, I can't even read this thing. It's so big. Okay. Cannot convert something. Well, I think it's saying I can't convert temp to bind character musical element. So what is temp's type? Keep left. So that should be array of musical element. Oh, maybe this should too then. Find character musical element. I think that's working now. Let's try build. Yeah, that one's working. So all notes parser is an array of musical element. Operator function requires satisfy character target, aka character. Oh, barline? Barline should be pipe. Well, no, that's going to be. Let's. Okay, so what this is saying, so the difference is these types stack up crazy. I mean, that's not horrible, but it's a pipe, you know, of built from a parser that takes characters to one that produces musical elements. I'm simplifying the type here, saying that's really just the same as one that takes characters and turns them into musical elements. And I'm doing the same thing down here. All notes parser body, and then let's do all note parser body. That should be notes. Okay, I'm doing the same thing here. All notes parser body has a horrible type. It's super nested and all that stuff. But if you worked it through, most of these things get ignored, and so the complete type is really character to musical element and array of musical elements. And when I finish with it, the bind kind of hides all that complexity. So it gives me a way to simplify the complexity of these things. Okay, now this, maybe my precedence isn't as high as I thought it was. I'm going to make sure the spaces get tied to this. Okay, is that, oh, that's all it was. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's better. All right, now let's see if anybody cares that there are now bar lines in our sequences. There may be a couple of more acceptance level kind of tests that might care. Yeah. All right. Allows bar lines. We got something going on. Check tune parsing. A bar line. Oh, I think one of is probably not right. It's probably more than one. Okay. Is that what's going on with all these? This could be a spacing thing, but I think it's okay. Yeah, there's some sort of weird error we're getting about bombs, byte order marks. Okay, the file accidentally had one in it at a weird place, and things were kind of odd. Okay, so I think what's going on here is we said a bar line was one character, but I think it's really multiple. I think it's a bunch of them. And down here, the bar line should be optional. Yeah, we can have, this is probably, I think this is probably accurate. So optionally, we can have one or more bar lines. And they, let's see, something should be breaking about now. Bar line, this string of $0. Now, let's make sure this is, like, I thought somebody would complain here. This, maybe I don't need this anymore. That might convert it into a string. Let's make sure. No, that's not working. Cannot convert value array of characters to expected type string. Okay, but if it is an array of characters, that's fine. So that should be okay. Okay, so I'm saying bar lines can come in groups, and we'll pick them up as if they're all one thing. That's not good enough. Okay, what do we got? Allows bar lines. Let's check tune parsing. And down here. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is an example of that. Expected notes. We really. I'm not sure the best way to do this then. Let's see these. What we're getting is the expected notes are coming up with the bar lines in them. And I feel like maybe we need to. Somebody should be checking them. I don't know. I want to make sure those musical elements are there. But also I want to make sure they don't really affect the notes any. this is really just the notes. I think maybe we just need to restrict this to the notes. Let's extract this out. That's our expected tune in this dot notes as well. Okay, so now this is saying the notes are the what is down here. Okay. All right. So we're saying the notes of the tune are what we're going to compare. So just give me the notes from the tune and the notes from the expected tune, and they should be the same. All right. But I think that means we need to really well, so much for that. Oh, okay. So our tune puts them in there. All right, let's go look at notes. This is what I was kind of afraid of. Yeah. So we map the parts. We get this. We just take the notes from the score. I mean, this is coming in from as a score. Let's see if we can get what we want off the score. Not really. See, somebody's going to have to filter out, right? Somebody should be calling is note. I don't know who is. Okay, score does. Score tests. Oh, there it is. Parsons code. Oh, Parsons code only wants notes. Okay, fair enough. I mean, we can do that on our notes. Yeah, let's look at doing that. Where's our test? Down here, check tune. Where we got there? Yeah. Well, tune.notes. Okay, let's go look at that. Right. Okay, notes. That's adding a score with the score. Ugh. Well, notes is probably not the right name for this. Tune.notes. Okay, I think we want to only get the ones. We really do have to restrict our notes. Okay, it's tone.notes. Filter is note. Only the real notes. Okay. So take the tune, get the, this is really like elements, I think, and filter out the ones that are notes and keep those and compare them to expected tune.notes. Okay, so only look at the notes. Oh. Versus score. Okay, so what is the result of this? Tune nodes, not going to help. Okay, what is that giving us? Filter gives us, sorry, notes gives us, let's make sure we're getting it. Notes gives us a score. Score gives us elements. Well, score is a sequence. Maybe I could just do the descriptions. Let's try that. I don't think this is, well, I don't think it's wrong that those are like that, because we really are just trying to get the notes right. But I think we need separate tests that make sure that the bar lines get parsed. Okay, so allowing them is one thing. I think we need another test. Bar lines are captured. And I don't know what I'm going to have to do compared to check tune parsing is a lot of stuff. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so parse tune, we don't need any header lines, but the note lines, what we really care about, let's just put a bracket. Okay, so if we parse that, tune should be a tune, right? Yes, so tune dot notes. Let's go check. Tune.notes is a score. Yeah, I think that's okay. And then score is the trickier one. Maybe I can get description. Yeah, I think description would be fine. Losing it here. Tune dot notes dot description. Yeah, let's check that. We expect it to look like bar colon a that. Okay. I want to make sure they're getting captured. And I'm not. Okay, A4, fair enough on that part, but I didn't capture the first one. Yeah, that's the reason we run these tests. Okay. Right. A4 bars is not equal. Okay, now I think we're cooking again. Note line parser. Notice this one is ignored. So this is an array of musical elements. If we have any. So putting that character in says I want to keep both sides. I want to keep the original bar lines if I have any. Now maybe this star is what I want. Barline parser is one or more. Maybe that should be 0 or more there. And then required here. Required, but it's an optional element, so there's no harm in it. Is that better? Now we got array of elements and array of elements. And that, I think we can say score. Well, no, we should get 2 things in, I think. I don't know. Can we tell what the type is here? Yeah, thanks. I think this is $0 and $1. I think we can say value. Is that going to do it? Ambiguous. Okay, let's make sure this is the whole thing. I think I'm working too hard. Let's take this off. Okay, now I think back to where it was. I almost think this is covered. This is one or more notes or bar lines, and we've already matched the bar lines. So I think this may be accurate. One or more bar lines followed by spaces. You may need spaces here too. Okay, but let's see if this captures it. Now I'm treating them much more as peers, so I think I might be able to go with this more simplified view of things. I'm a little worried about spaces after the initial bar line, though. I don't know how you get an infinite loop out of that. Is that what's going on? Let's make sure it builds. Okay. Well, let's see who's... Stop and just run this one. How weird. Okay, let's put it back. And try again. Oh, syntax error. Bar line. Oh, this is where I was. Okay, so this... Come on, give me an AKA. Character to array of musical element score. Yeah. Bar line is producing musical array of elements. This thing is producing score. Score, that's an array of musical elements, so that should be fine as it is. Okay, now I've got a score and a score, I think. No. 20 parens? No. Okay, that's parser. Cannot convert bloody, aka bind character score, comma score to bind character to score. Okay, this is a pair. I'm going to take this off now. Nope. I think that's back where we were again. Okay. Right. So barline in this, the type of this is score, score. No. Okay, I'm going to have to leave it here, I think. Score takes notes or elements. And then you can say add more elements. Score 2 is a score already. No, still not right. Find character void to return that. Okay. I'm going to leave it here. Okay. We have failing tests, so we'll pick up there tomorrow. Where were those tests? Yeah, bar line capture. Okay, so bar lines are captured. Okay, so we're going to pick up there. We will figure out the type matching and all that to figure out why this thing is not happy anymore. But it's something about bar line. Basically, it's the combination of the two. We're keeping those initial bar lines. It's an array of musical elements. This one's a score. Well, why don't we try that here? Is that going to work? No, it's not. Okay. Okay, so bar line gives us that. I guess I tried doing that before, didn't I? Score and score. We've got something going on because this is now a significant element. The old one was this, and that should run and fail. Maybe that's a better place to leave us. But anyway, we're closing in. We've almost got bar lines captured as part of the sequence of things, and we've got our tests going. So, oh, sorry, I missed your message. Well, if you're still there, Mr. Simpson 00 or 00, we're doing this program to match tune similarity. And so we're feeding in a bunch of different tunes. We've got this file format that defines bar lines, but we haven't captured them till now, and we need to. So we've been working to, mostly working on the parser to try and match this crazy input format. Crazy but useful. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just complicated. But modifying to try and capture this input format, and with that, we'll be able to. Our real goal is to quantize things so that if something's written with quarter notes and something's written with eighth notes, we can pull out the notes happening at the same time and compare them for a more fair comparison. All right. Anyway, we're picking up there next time. Thanks for joining, and I hope I catch you in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.